Can I get a drink, please?
No, not now. Ask one of the other ones.
Yeah.
The dirty one or the gay one.
Frank, why do we have to be in here? We should be out
The
there.
dirty one and the gay one. Jesus.
We're not ready. We need a game plan. We can't risk losing our 2-star rating.
Don't want to lose any stars.
Yeah. Okay, guys, here we go. This is some more of the Fat Electrician. Most of you know just the other day I had posted here my reaction to a couple of his videos, and they're just brilliant. I mean, seriously, the writing, his delivery is top shelf. It's just, I'm fascinated by stuff like this. And now in the comments section of that video, you guys recommended a video that just by title alone, I need to see. It's Angry Old Veteran versus 700 Redcoats, Samuel Whittemore. Now, I am not a veteran, but I'm old and I get angry. So I know where an old guy could do a lot of damage, because you get to be old and you just stop giving a shit. That's what makes you more dangerous. But as always, the link to the original video is in the description. Please make sure, don't watch a reaction video without having seen the original. And of course, if you're not familiar with Fat Electrician, set aside a few hours once you get to his channel, because
yes, the
it's going to be good times.
hero of Massachusetts. Today we're talking about Samuel Whittemore, quite possibly America's first anti-hero and the most gangster old man of all time. But first, a word from our sponsor, because this
I like
video is
this.
brought to you by
This is going to be good.
Boy. They make all kinds of dog-related products, from supplements.
Oh, Operation Good Boy.
To dog food picker-upper bags.
Look at this dog.
Mushu absolutely loves the Made in America treats ready to eat. Jake,
His dog's the best
roll over. Roll over.
commercial
Roll over.
commercial actor
Got
he
it.
could get in
No,
that
do
spot.
the
He
whole
looks
thing.
so excited.
You got to do the whole thing, dude. Roll over. Roll over. Roll over. You're making me look bad on camera. Roll over. Fine.
I already shook your hand.
So yeah, check them out at OperationGoodBoy.com.
Cute dog.
Use code QUACK15 for 15% off. Let's get back to the video. All right,
Good
Samuel
dog, too.
Whittemore, we don't know much,
Took
but
it
here's
very
what we do
gently
know.
from
He was
his
born in
hand.
Charlestown, Massachusetts in 1696. From there, he goes dark. We don't hear from him until 1721 when he gets married to his wife, Elizabeth Spring. Then he goes dark
those
again. There's nothing of him in
25
the
years
historical
ago.
record until 1744. At the age of 48 years old, he would fight in King George's War. And during that war, he held the rank of captain, leading an entire platoon of dragoons during the siege of Louisburg. If you don't know, dragoon is just a fancy word for cavalry, so think of like Malfoy's dad from The Patriot. Same thing. So that's cool, whatever, but here's the important part that nobody else
That's
ever
good.
brings up. Like I said, he's a captain, which is a way bigger deal than most people make it out to be, and here's why. There's really only two ways that you can become an officer in the British military at this point in time. Way number one, you are born into a wealthy British aristocratic
Okay, that
family,
makes sense,
and
yeah.
daddy's got a lot of money. That's like 95% of the British officers at this point in time. Or way number
Excuse
two,
me.
and way less likely, you are a complete badass doing gangster shit on the regular, and they absolutely need you to lead some men.
Given
the fact that Samuel's
You
just
make
some
yourself
random colonial that was born in
necessary.
Massachusetts, it kind of narrows down which category he fell into. So he and his men help lay siege to Fort Louisburg. That goes well. They take over the fort. From there, the war is over, so he heads back home to what is now Arlington, Massachusetts. From there, he goes back to doing seemingly the only other thing he's good at, because I'm not kidding you, this guy does two things his entire life. He plows stuff, and he fights wars. When he's not
Wow.
fighting wars, he's back
That's
at home
actually-
plowing his fields and plowing his wife, because this dude has 10 kids. I am not kidding you. There was only two things on the historical record that even
Wow,
prove
he
that
is
this man existed for the next 10 years.
quality
One is the
power.
sheer amount of birth certificates where he is listed as the father. I mean, the mother is always his wife. He's not cheating on his wife. It's just they're having a bunch of kids. And second, and my most favorite
He's gotta be
detail of this
tired.
entire story, when he came back from war, he had a very, very decorative, ornate, almost gaudy French officer's sword covered in gold and rhinestones and jewels and all kinds of shit. And it became
Cool.
his prized possession that he would show off to all of his buddies in town. And when they would ask him where on earth he got that, the only thing he would say is, and I quote, "The previous owner died suddenly." I acquired it. All right, so fast forward 10
That's
years.
badass. That's a plowing of sorts.
It is now 1754, and Attila the Whitmore over here is approximately 58 years old.
Attila
and
the Whitmore.
French and Indian War breaks out. Now, does Sam have to go fight this war? Absolutely not. He is a 58-year-old man in the 1700s when the life expectancy is 60. He should be falling over any minute now, but he also has 10 kids, so he's literally like, honey, I gotta go beat up the French again. Okay, bye.
Ah, well said. And off he goes, yes.
If you don't know, the French and Indian War is basically the Kingdom of France versus the British Empire, and both sides are backed by different Native American tribes. This is supposedly the war that Mel Gibson's character fought in The Patriot, and presumably where he got his cool tomahawk from. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Very
Did
cool
Sam
tomahawk.
Witwer get a cool
Love that
tomahawk
movie.
too? No, he didn't. But what he did get
He's got
was
the cool
two
sword.
matching dueling pistols that were super cool. And you're never going to believe this, but the previous owner died. Suddenly.
Yeah.
Okay, look, it's not stealing if they don't exist anymore. That's just the rules, I guess.
That's-
So Sam and
that's
his
a
men
fair
beat up on the
point.
French yet again. He acquires some fancy dueling pistols, and then he heads back home. Okay, fast forward again.
Still plowing, yeah.
It is now 1763, and Sam Whitmore is 67
How well
years
told
old,
these stories
and the
are.
Pontiac Rebellion breaks out.
God
Surely he's
damn.
going to sit this one out, right? Absolutely not. He grabs his French sword, he grabs his double dueling pistols, his musket, and he heads off to war yet again. So he goes, he fights in that war for a little bit, comes back
Holy
home, at which point he
shit.
decides that he's going to get involved in politics. So somewhere along the line, he starts rolling around in the political circles, he finds himself at a fancy dinner party, and there's this guy there that's running for House of Representatives, and his name is John Vassell, and he represents everything that Sam hates. Sam is a small town farmer that's just trying to plant his crops and bang his wife, and this guy is like the big
And doing a good
powerful
job of it.
merchant out of Boston, the big city, running the ports, making all this money. He wants to get into office to make laws more beneficial to him so he can be rich, and Sam is just trying to get by. So,
Right.
at this dinner party, Sam, who's not scared of anybody, informs him, hey, by the way, you're no better suited for office than the horse I rode in on. By the way, my horse's name is Nero, he's parked out front, and he's not worth 5 pounds, which I'm not an expert in translating old-timey colonial speak, but it sounds like he's saying you're not worth a horse's ass. Go fuck yourself. At which
That's
point,
what I got.
John Vassell gets very upset and decides that he is going to sue Sam for public defamation for the price of 1,000 pounds, which is a shit ton of money back then. So the entire town finds out about this lawsuit, and they all show up to court to actually watch the trial, because Sam represents that grizzled old man that's just saying what's on everybody's mind,
Yep.
but nobody else has
Is
the balls
willing
to
to
say.
say.
And he
Yeah.
goes in and basically turns this entire trial into the roast of John Vassell. Ends up winning. Sam doesn't get sued, at which point he slaps him with a counter lawsuit on the spot and ends up countersuing him for $200 and wins. So that kind of launches Sam's political career. Fast forward again.
I like this
It's
old
now
dude.
1765, and the British Empire has been fighting France for quite a while, and it's getting expensive. They need to make more money, and the best thing they can come up with is a Stamp Act. Basically, they're going to charge the colonials a tax on every single printed piece of paper that they come up with. This is like the modern day equivalent of if every time you made a phone call, sent a text, or visited a website, you had to pay a tax for it.
Right.
And people are absolutely outraged, and Sam is infuriated. I mean, from his point of view, he's been fighting the French for the British Empire, and now he's
Yeah.
going to have to pay an extra tax just for doing it. He is so mad that he ends up becoming a hardcore revolutionary. But he's also like a 70-year-old man, so he's mostly just serving
Holy
on committees,
shit.
being like, hey, maybe America should be its own country. We shouldn't pay so much in taxes. Yada, yada, yada. Fast forward again.
You gotta
It is
be
now
kidding me.
1773. Samuel Whitmore is a 75-year-old man, and the British government has just rolled out their new
Yikes.
and improved strategy for making even more money. The Tea Act. Yeah,
There
they're
it
going to
is.
start taxing the importation of tea, which will go down in history as one of the greatest ideas of all time.
Yeah.
At this point, Sam is serving on a committee
Nothing
representing his
bad could
hometown of
happen there.
Cambridge, which would later become known as Arlington. And that committee sends a response to the British government in regards to the Tea Act that basically says, fine, if you're going
Suck
to
my
charge us
ass.
more money, we're just not going to buy your tea because, and I quote, if we fail to assert our rights, we will dwindle into supineness. Now, like I said earlier, not an expert in translating old-timey colonial talk, but it sounds like Sam and his committee just told the British government that we're not going to buy your metric leaf water because we're not going to let you guys fuck us.
Fuck
That's
us.
why.
That's
At this point, pretty much everybody in
100%.
America's
That's
pissed
what was
off. They
said.
start smuggling tea to avoid taxes. The Boston Tea Party happens December 1773. From there, people just start stockpiling guns and gunpowder and supplies, getting ready for war if one should break out. Now, fast forward April 1775, General Thomas Gage is appointed the military governor of Massachusetts,
This is
and he will be
fascinating
residing in Boston,
story.
which has been turned into a
Jeez.
British military stronghold. At that point, General Gage decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to get proactive. I'm going to stomp out this whole rebellion talk right here and right now. I'm going to take 700 men, an entire regiment, and I'm going to march them out to Lexington and Concord. While they're in Lexington, they're going to arrest those stupid, annoying revolutionaries, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, and then they're going to continue marching to Concord.
Oh.
And they're going to burn down all the stocked up military supplies. So the British military starts making preparations for a huge movement, at which point revolutionary spies find out and they decide to let everybody know. And when I say they decide to let everybody know, I mean a silversmith from Boston by the name of Paul Revere is going to take off at midnight, ride through the entire countryside, going house to house, telling everybody that the British are coming. And guess whose house is between Boston and Lexington? Sam motherfucking Whitmore.
Oh, of course it is.
I'm not shitting you. It is like 99% sure that Paul Revere showed up at 78-year-old Samuel Whitmore's house sometime in the middle of the night and was like, hey,
that's
just
amazing.
let you know, the British are coming. At which point, he's like...
Get off my lawn.
presumably Paul Revere's
That's
like, okay,
the
whatever,
perfect-
I gotta go
that's
with
the
everybody
perfect
else.
segue.
And Samuel goes back to bed. That morning, April 19th, 1775, the British are marching and they're almost to Lexington, and they are cut off by 77 Minutemen, led by a man by the name of John Parker. John Parker orders the Minutemen to, quote, stand your ground, don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have war, let it begin here. So the British roll up with 700 trained professional soldiers and tell these 77 Minutemen, literally farmers that just picked up whatever guns they had around, and told them, disperse you rebel scum. At which point the Minutemen are like, nah,
Okay.
we're good. We're going
Now
to
it's-
stay right
yeah.
here, and so are you. And that's exactly what happens. They just stand there staring at each other from across this field, with the British officer not knowing what to do, because he has to get to Concord to get rid of these supplies, because those were his orders, but he also doesn't want to open fire on these guys, because that will mean the start of the Revolutionary War.
Right.
So they just stood there, seemingly forever, in formation, ready to throw down, waiting for the other guy to make the first move, and suddenly from the American side, a gun goes off. Nobody knows who fired, nobody knows why, but this was the shot heard around the world that would start the American Revolution. And for all we know, it could have been some old farmer that just dropped his gun.
There it is.
From there, all hell breaks loose. Both sides fire on each other. 8 American Minutemen are killed, and the British advance towards Concord. The surviving Minutemen take off to go tell everybody that the Revolutionary War has officially begun, as the British spend the next 4 hours searching through Concord, gathering all the military supplies and lighting them on fire. Everybody in the surrounding area sees all the smoke from the burning supplies, and they think that the British military is burning down the entire town of Concord. Because of that, 2,000 Minutemen show up to fight back, at which point the British are like, oh shit, and they start retreating. They run across the bridge and start
we
ripping
done
the
fucked
planks
up
off of it as they go. At which point, the 2,000 Minutemen and 700 British soldiers fire upon one another from either side of this bridge as the British continue to retreat. The British now have to march 18 miles back to their military stronghold in Boston in their stupid high-vis Redcoats.
Yeah,
And every
I love
single
those
American
Redcoats.
with a gun
Dumb shits.
between there and Boston is taking pop shots at them from the wood line. During this retreat, 26 Redcoats go missing, 175 are wounded, and 73 are killed, and 3 of them at least are from Samuel Whitmore. So we cut back to Samuel Whitmore. He's 78 years old, chilling at home, presumably plowing something. What? We don't really know. And he just hears gunfire going off in the background. It's getting closer and
Definitely
closer.
plowing
And
something,
then he
though.
remembers, oh, that fucking kid woke me up last night in midnight and told me the British were coming. Maybe that's what's going on. So he goes, he grabs his fancy French officer's sword, both of his dueling pistols, and his musket, and he goes out to the main road that the British would be marching past, and he's going to stand by the stone wall next to the main road and just wait for the fight to come to him like the complete badass that he is. At this point, all the
Jesus.
younger Minutemen are running
Wow.
up to check on this old man like, hey, what are you doing? You shouldn't be out here, and if you are going to try to do this kind of stuff, at least go out in the wood line or in like a second-story window to hide yourself like the rest of us so you don't get yourself killed. To which Samuel Whitmore responds, and I quote, if I can only be the instrument for killing one of my country's foes, I shall die in peace. Which I think we can all agree
That's
is gangster as fuck.
badass.
At this point, this man
That
is
gave me a
literally the
chill.
living embodiment of old man strength. He's just
Yeah,
that old, grizzled,
of crazy
veteran
old man
Viking that's
strength.
got one more fight left in him and wants to die in battle so he can go to Valhalla. So he stays there, he loads his musket, he loads his pistols, and he waits. And he waits, and finally the British come marching right down the road, dead at him. As they get close, he crouches down behind the
Holy
stone wall with his
crap.
musket and waits until they get to point blank range, and that's when he pops up over the wall, aims his gun,
I said get off my lawn.
and fires, immediately killing one redcoat on the spot, drawing both of his pistols, killing 2 more redcoats, drawing his sword, and charging into over 500 soldiers on his own. He is then immediately
Holy
shot in the
fuck.
face. He falls to the ground and is somehow still alive, so he reaches to grab one of his guns and start reloading it, at which point the British run up and stab him with bayonets somewhere between 6 and 13 times. Apparently, after the first 5, they all kind of blend together. He is then clubbed in the head with the butt of a rifle and left for dead, as his body lays there, mangled and lifeless,
Holy
as the British
shit.
continue to march through the town on their way to Boston. 4 hours later, the townspeople notice that his corpse starts moving. So they pick Samuel up, they get him over to the doctor, they alert the family shows up to the doctor, at which point the local town doctor, Nathaniel Tufts, is like, dude
He
is
won't
78
die.
years old.
Yeah.
He wasn't prepared to handle a fall down the stairs, let alone getting stabbed 13 times and shot in the head. Okay, like there's no way this old man's gonna make it. But like I said, his family members start showing up, and guess how many direct descendants Samuel Whitmore has
Oh, I
at
can't
this
even
point
imagine.
in time after all that plowing? Go
Yeah.
ahead, give it a guess. Say it in your head. Okay, you got your
52.
number? Okay, he's got 185 living descendants. Okay, he's got 5
Jesus
generations
Christ.
beneath him. He's got kids, grandkids,
Yeah, 52 is way low.
great
10
grandkids
kids.
squared, and great grandkids cubed. 185 people showing up to the doctor like, hey, save grandpa. At this point, poor Dr. Tufts is like, dude's gonna die, but I'm not about to tell 180 grandkids
Yeah.
that, so I'll try my best. So he does what he can. He bandages him up and sends him home with his family, and they take care of him for the remainder of his days. And when I say the remainder of his days, what I mean is, let me check my notes real quick. I mean that he passed on February 3rd, 1793. This motherfucker lived for 18 more years and passed
Are
away at
you
the age of
kidding?
96. And to commemorate Samuel Whitmore, there's actually a
Jesus.
monument where he made his last stand. You said that he was 78 during his last stand and 96 when he died, and that clearly says that he was 98 when he died and 80 during his last stand. Why are you so dumb? Okay, look, I understand your point, and I also can kind of sort of read, and I realize the irony because this is literally written in stone, and I'm telling you that it's wrong, but it is wrong. That is the only source that says that he was 98
Right.
when he died and 80 during his last stand. Every other source
We're
says
splitting
that he was
hairs
78
anyway.
and
Same-
96.
same
This has
point
been
is
proven
made.
to be false multiple times, but they don't want to change it because the monument's already so old. So yes, I'm sticking with what I said. But the most important part of this picture is to actually zoom in on the house in the background. That's Samuel Whitmore's original house where he lived his entire life, and it's still around today as a historical site in Arlington, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And that monument is in the front yard. So if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, what I'm trying to tell you is, in conclusion, this has been the story of America's
wanna see his
first
house
and
now.
oldest gangster, a 78-year-old
Yeah, no
grizzled
shit.
veteran that woke up on the first day of the American Revolutionary War and decided to
And
casually
chose
go
violence.
3-0 while telling the entire British Empire to get off his lawn. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is to go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack
That's it
bang
too.
out.
Almost
I'm a
literally.
bit more excited for a future t-shirt design. I can see it now. America's original gangster, get off my lawn. Samuel Whitmore.
That's perfect.
Dueling pistols and a sword.
That was amazing. Can you? I can't even adequately wrap my brain around that level of badassery. I mean, all the plowing the guy has seen aside, the amount of times he'd been in war, what he'd survived, and when push comes to shove, he runs out in front of 500 of the enemy saying, fuck you all, I'll stab every one of you if you give me the chance. Yeah, oh man, I'm down in North Carolina now. I'll tell you, if I was still living in upstate New York, I would be making it a point to travel over to Massachusetts just to go see his house.
Fry man up there.
I have not called for you, Frylock. What are you doing here?
Frylock?
Well, quit hovering. I am the leader.
Man, your car is messed up.
Live here.
How are you gonna get to work, Carl?
I work out at home.
Frylock, send Carl to work. Then we shall
work
solve
out
this
at home.
mystery and make $20.